Good morning, students. So, is my voice is audible?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for the acknowledgement. So, regarding today's session, so before getting into session, just I want to convey in the group. I think section A class teacher have requested for textbooks regarding the corresponding subject. Right. I suggest you students for core engineering papers that you can go for textbooks. Right. But this is technology. If you are going to buy a textbook, the book they will run with a JDK 1.8, right? So I don't find you won't get any updates in that book. Okay, so that was mentioned in your syllabus also, right? Already we have shared the syllabus with you. Textbooks and reference books has been given. The best idea is you can have soft copies. Already soft copies are with us. We will circulate towards you. I think no need to go for purchasing textbooks in hard copy, right? If you need, you can make a print of the soft copies what we have supplied. But the ultimate idea is pertaining to technology, learn it from internet as well as we are supplying you updated materials, right? So through that you could able to learn. Uh, because the recent version is JDK 1.14, so while you are going to purchase textbooks, you could get something the older versions of that consists of not updated constructors, methods, and the new keywords introduced, new functionalities being projected over there. So that's the reason why for technology it's good to learn from the materials what we are supplying as well as through internet, right? Even especially with respect to Java, uh, you have a Oracle University website, okay? Oracle University website or Oracle Education website. In that you are having, for example, if they are introducing a new keyword, if they are introducing a new method, if they are introducing a new class, that will be updated immediately in that website. Okay, so that Oracle Education website will help you a lot pertaining to the recent updates. Right? So through that you could able to gather your knowledge. Okay, I think probably before the end of the day, class teachers, sorry, the respective section teachers will give you the textbooks through email, right? The size of the textbooks may vary in PDFs. Else we will try to upload in Google Classroom. Through that you could able to access the textbooks, right? So the thing is, just go through the internet for updates. That's the thing. The recent websites, right? That is all the website also I mentioned. Oracle Education website or Oracle University website that could have the recent updates on Java, right? That's the official website, right? So that's the thing that I want to convey here, right? So we'll get into today's session, right? So this is the second module of our multi-threading. Today we are going to see the second piece. So in the last session, whatever we have discussed has been framed as MCQs. Please try to answer for this. Yes, here is your first question. What could be the best option? So am I getting answers in the chat box? No answers till now. That's very important, right? That could get you the point. Have you understood multi-threading or not? This is the one section will blend you a lot. No answers. The first day in the week, right? So you have to respond. I think your weekend have done well. These things could be the practice for your subsequent weekly tests, right? That's also a thing. What you have learned from the previous session. We have to move the session right, so you have to answer. Options. Yeah, people are boring options now. Very good. Good to see that. So option B is the best one, right? So what about option A, C, D? Process in which two different processes run simultaneously, right? So they are talking about something on. Anybody try to find out what is A? Process in which two different processes run simultaneously. Run simultaneously. What about option A? Any term that you want to specify? Because I have given you clarification on multi-threading with three more terms, right? Could you able to remember? So it's a process in which two different processes run simultaneously. What does it mean? Anyone? Sakteshri has having answered. Two different processes run simultaneously. It leads to your parallel processing, right? Two different processes run simultaneously. Nothing but parallel processing. Next day, it's a process C1. It's a process in which many different processes able to access the same information. Access the same information. What does it represent? What does it represent? They are ready to access the same information. So we are having a shared address space that represents. Okay. So that's also ready to work with a concurrency. It's a process in which a single process can access information from many sources. One process, many sources. Right? One process, many sources. So what does it represent? One process, many sources. So you should be familiar with something called computer architecture to understand this. There is a concept called Flynn's architecture, FLYNN, Flynn's architecture. So single instruction, multiple output. So it will come under that category, right? So I could able to construct my own architecture for this. Fine. This could be the first one. Second one. What could be the best option? A simple question, a normal question. So these processes are types of multitasking. I think we have dedicated a separate slide for this during the last session. Yes, we are getting C, right? Ultimately, it is C, right? So process-based multitasking, thread-based multitasking. So we are working with the thread-based multitasking. Now, something that you have to think and convey. Which of these instruction is incorrect? You have to identify the sentence which is not correct. Because you have been three facts are here, only one thing is wrong. Identify which one is wrong. Something you have to think and convey. Question number 3. People are supplying answers D, 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 D. I think D. I think D is correct. We know that D is correct because remember the state diagram of the thread. So I am getting options. Any other options? Okay, people are supplying B only. Huh? My God, this is correct. So you people are having complete clarity on that, right? So you have remembered the diagram. A thread can exist only in two states. No, we have seen number of states, right? Starting from a state and termination, we have seen around 5 states. What are all the methods that they are communicating in that? We could able to see. Next question: what requires less resources? What requires less resources? Fine. That could be thread always because thread is a lightweight process. Already we have seen in the session, right? What does not prevent JVM from terminating, right? So this is the one I want to educate you. I think by today's session you will come to understand what does not prevent JVM from terminating, right? So the place where JVM could not have much more handle on that. That's what the daemon thread. Daemon thread is nothing but the thread which is running in the background. Okay, it's nothing but the thread which is running in the background. Parallelly, two threads or three threads or more threads, number of threads could able to run. That is what multi-threading. So in that, yeah, daemon thread is nothing but that won't be available in your corresponding environment for identification. That will run as a background thread. That's what a daemon thread. I will show you the demonstration also. Daemon thread, a very specific entity pertaining to demonic activity on thread is which are useful to trigger the events probably, right? So I think ethically I should not convey, but as a technology learning part we could able to come to know that most of the viruses are being written as demonic process only, right? So I think you have a book called TSRs through C by Yashwant Kanitkar. So first you have to learn that virus programs through C language. You have to understand the hardware. Then how much uh, vital content that you are ready to acquire from the computer hardware parts as well as software. What about your knowledge on operating system software knowledge? So these three prerequisites will make that you to understand the textbooks. Once you understand in C language, you could come for writing your interesting worms and viruses through Java also, right? But it can be tracked very easily. Know that Java is a system. It's not a purely a system-based language. It's application-based one, but you have a lot of loopholes are there to write those interesting things. People who are working with ethical hacking, that you could have a flavor on the demonic threats that could be able to run with. I think most of the onion browsers, I think people know about onion browsers for working in the ethical hacking, but don't try this in your local machine. Onion browsers that will take you to the black world of IT. So those onion browsers will have the basic capability of this daemon thread. Whatever that you are going to type, the data will be taken care of by demonic thread. But anyway, something will be visually for you to work with. But background, there will be some process to tap and get the data through it. By using simple JavaScript, you can do all those things in your normal and normal browsers too, right? But at the same time, the onion browsers are something to work with or to be used by the hackers. So that's the case. Such a type of interesting things also that you could be able to do through this multi-threading after learning whatever I have conveyed. Once you get the complete understanding of those type of entries that you could able to travel in other direction regarding ethical happy. Right? People who are interested to move with the security, that you can take that flavor and take it forward. Fine. So by that, the complete recap that what we have seen in the last session, we know how to create threads. There are two ways are there, by using class or as well as by using interface. Any one of the two ways that I could able to create, but I have preferred you to work with using class. It will be easy for you, right? Because while you are going to work with the interface, again you have to use implements, again you have to use create a class for object for the thread class, take that object, pass it towards that interface and corresponding class and make it to activate again, right? So that could be a cumbersome job to work with the interface. I prefer you to work with the class, right? So how to create the thread? That's the thing, simple thing. Thread object equal to new thread. So by that, using that object o dot start, whatever the content need to be executed using multi-threading, that must be inscribed within run method. That's it. Run is the built-in method available for our thread class. Okay, so whatever you are going to write within the run method, that will ready for your multi-threading operation. That's okay. This is what a simple recap that what we have seen in the last session. Right, today's concept, thread scheduling. Right, scheduling. What does this term? This term is derived from operating system. Actually, scheduling. What does it do? It will decide which one to run. That's what the role of scheduler. Right, even in Java, especially in JVM, we have a thread scheduler. The thread scheduler available in JVM will decide which thread should run. If you are going to create multiple threads, which thread need to work first, which thread need to work second, which thread will need to work third. Even though we are going to work with a common shared address space, even though we are having separate stack, registers, everything, the property of concurrency could be sequential only here, right? So I will show you the outputs also. So and also you could have a point here. There is no guarantee which runnable thread will be chosen to run by the thread scheduler. For example, 10 threads are there in the scheduling queue. Which thread need to be executed first? For example, T1 to T10. Which one need to be get to first? It will not be like I see it is in the queue. First to come, first to serve. No, it's not like that, right? So that's depend upon the thread scheduler's instance that it will run. Even if you are going to run a program, you could able to see, for example, you are having a function 1, it is going to print 1 to 10. Again, you are having a function 2, it is going to print 1 to 10. Fun 1, fun 2, right? So you are going to start the thread, T1 dot start, next to T2 dot start. So if I am going to create two threads, how function 1 and function 2 will be involved? If I am going to create only one thread, how function 1, function 2 will work? So all those things that we are going to see today. They have given clearly a point. Only one thread at a time can run in a single process, right? Because multiple processes will be available, multiple threads will be available, thread will be mapped within the process. That is the idea here. So this is the term that I want to introduce here, because what multi-threading can do. Okay, preemptive scheduling, that is the main feature of multi-threading. That means priority. So here left side you could able to see process 1 and process 2. You could able to see the blocks are in equal size. Okay, you could be able to understand that blocks are equal size in process 1 and process 2. They have mentioned a switch. What does it mean? The term is called a context switching, right? So it is switching from one process to other process. So preemptive scheduling is nothing but I'm giving priority for both the process here. Okay, I'm giving priority for both the process here. While I'm coming for non-preemptive, I doesn't give priority, but context switching is happening. I doesn't give priority because you could be able to see the big long box in your process 1, right? There is no equality in context switching that you could be able to understand. Time slots not have given properly over there. That's what non-preemptive scheduling. Okay, so while using preemptive scheduling only, my priority will be identified. So that is the basic case. Or in the thread environment, when multiple threads are there, if you want to give any thread for the first priority to move, so in that case I need to use preemptive scheduling. So it is like in your temple, you have a general darshan, you have a paid entrance. Okay, so through that, when you are going through your paid entrance, you could be able to move over that. That is your priority, right? So priority based, so they will be allowing to be first because they have paid an amount, right? So likewise here, I could able to see that I could able to give priority. So how can I go for priority? A basic mechanism called the interrupt, that you will learn about this completely in your architecture and operating system. But I'll give you an orientation here. Interrupt. What is a interrupt actually? First of all, you must know what does interrupt will do. Then I will tell you what is an interrupt. For example, CPU is doing a job now currently. It is doing a job. In that case, some external disturbances coming. For example, you are listening the music in the system. Some external disturbances coming. Nothing but you have interfaced your machine with you have interfaced your system with a fax machine, right? So I think you people are not familiar with the fax machine. Might be, or else you could able to consider a photocopying machine was being interfaced with our system. Someone from mobile is ready to give their printout. So in that case, I could get a message. I will be listening to a song. I'll get a message such that the printer dialog will open in my environment. So someone have given print, so that printer dialog will be visible for my system also. So the page one annotation, so number of pages, everything could be visible for me also. It will make it to print. I won't do anything on my system, right? But I could be able to see that interruption on my system. So in that case, what will happen actually? So whenever CPU is performing a job, if any priority based job is coming, in that case, priority will be given for the external job only, always. So interrupt is the one which will tell me that the job what you are doing is not priorities to one. The job what had came externally now, that it need to be served first. That's what I have conveyed initially regarding about a fax machine. If fax is going to come, ultimately your system also will ready to give you a dialogue. See, fax is an incoming fax. Press this button to complete the process. Likewise, I will get an box. So till the time your music will hang. So what will happen? CPU will store the current job's address in the stack. It will go and service the interrupt. Interrupt is nothing but the fax machine. So once the job of fax machine is over, automatically your job will be resumed. So again, what will happen? The CPU will complete its job and it will come back. It will pop up the address from the stack and it will go for performing its old operation, right? So this is the process of interrupt, how it will be. Okay, so soft interrupt is nothing but it is going to be my an external disturbance or the signal which carries the priority. That's what interrupt is. Interrupt can be classified as software interrupt and hardware interrupt. So we are going to work with the software interrupt only, right? If I'm going to create priority means I'm going to work with a software interrupt. That's the thing. What is mean by hardware interrupt? You are working on a machine, your sister and come and switch off your laptop or your desktop. That's called a hardware interrupt, right? So that's what they are non-maskable interrupts. But maskable interrupts that we could able to do something with that. We can program it. Okay, we can program it. That could be able to done with that. I am going to interface a tube light with my machine. I'm going to switch it on and off. That's going to be maskable interrupts, right? I'm going to interface my gate door, or I'm going to interface my home door or a window with my system, right? By doing some electrical and electronic connections. Through that, I'm going to operate. That will serve my maskable interrupts, right? So such interesting things are that you could able to learn with the interrupt-based learning, right? Interrupt-based programming also. Even in that book textbook, TSS through C, you could be able to know something called interrupt-based programming also, right? If I want to access any hardware devices, every device has its own address that are available in a table called a interrupt vector table. If you want to access the device, it is enough. You could access the IVT interrupt vector table. You can access the device very easily, right? You could be able to see in Hollywood movies how they are accessing the remote devices. The remote devices are being accessed through my corresponding IVT only, right? So likewise, so such interesting things that you could be able to move with. Ultimately, preemptive scheduling has been dedicated for mentioning the priority. Next term that you must know about it, time slicing, right? Time slicing also a feature that multitasking will provide. Even you could be able to See here, see the time slicing is unique here. Process 1, process 2, see the squares, the process how they have divided, the process squares are unique. That means, for example, it is going to take 7 milliseconds for this process 1, means next 7 milliseconds for process 2, next 7 milliseconds for process 1. So likewise it could be able to, so the context switching is happening in the equal duration, but here it's not like that, it's showing as per the thing. So you could be able to see here, first one disjointed, here there is no time slicing, it is running sequentially, right? All are happening in different time, t1, t2, t3, but second one you could be able to see, you could be able to see some time slicing here. Overlapping, what type of overlapping is happening here? When the first process is going to complete, before that second process initiated. When second process is going to complete, third process got initiated. This is called overlapping, right? So this overlapping feature you can see in thread. How to manage the overlapping of threads? You have some mechanisms. Next, cumulative. What does it mean cumulative? At the same time, all the process will begin. Parallelly, the closing time of the respective process will vary. That's what being mentioned in the cumulative, right? But pertaining to your multi-threading, the second one will be more applicable. That you could be able to manage that when you are going to work with the multi-threading, the process of overlapping. That is necessary for multi-threading, but when it is going to dissimulate the process, that we have to take care of it. That's the main job here we need to concentrate. So today's the technical part, I think core engineering over, dealing with the technology, what we are going to see. Already I have listed you all the methods in the first slide, but depending upon the core engineering concepts, you must learn what are all the methods that you are going to work with. The second method will be, I think, won't be more useful for you. The first method will be more useful. So sleep milliseconds, right? So for example, if you want to give 3 seconds, what is the value you will pass within this sleep method? So using this sleep method, I could able to perform, I could able to interrupt the thread for some time. That means the thread will run from, the thread will be created, it is running now. When you are going to issue the sleep method, the thread will sleep for what is the number of milliseconds that you are going to give within that, by that it will sleep. Okay, now I want to make the thread to sleep for 1 second. So what is the value I have to supply? Please supply your answers in the chat. I want to make the thread to sleep for 1 second. So what is the argument I will pass? $100. Okay. Any other answers? Milliseconds means 10 to the power 10 to the power minus 3, right? Only Swami have answered. Okay, 10 to the power minus 3. Okay, so if I want to make 1 second, okay, 1 second. So in that case, you have to supply 1000. Okay, 10 to the power minus 3. Right, this program will give you some idea. This program, don't worry about that. That was very big program. See the main method. I have created 2 threads, T1, T2. Okay, I am starting T1 as well as I am starting T2. When T1 dot start is going to happen, what will happen? We will come to the run method. The run method, what I am doing, don't worry about all those things. Run method is doing, it is ready to print 1 to 4. Okay, it is ready to print 1 to 4. That's it. So in that case, I am going to sleep for 500. So what will happen? It is ready to sleep for the mentioned number of milliseconds. So in that case, you are able to see the output. So how it is printing? First thread is going to sleep because T1 dot start. Okay, T1 dot start. When T1 dot start is going to work, T1 will sleep. T2 will print 1 first. Okay, T2 will print 1 first because T1 at a time it could be able to handle only 1 thread. That's what I have conveyed. Now T1 got slept. T2 will work. Next, T2 will sleep. T1 dot will work. So likewise, Alternatively, it is printing and working, right? So this could be the flavor of sleep method when we are going to work with, right? So that's the idea. Second thing, can we start a thread twice? Right? See, these are all the questions which are necessary for your campus. Okay? Can we start a thread twice? Nothing but the run method. By using the same thread object, can I able to start it? This is a question that you have to answer from your state diagram. Remember, I have started a thread. Can I able to start a thread again? Anybody respond in the chat? I have started a thread. Can I able to start the thread again? Once the thread is started, the thread will enter into the run state. Okay. Can I able to start the thread again? That's my question. Is it possible to come back from run state to initial state? Yes, ultimately. It won't be, right? So in that case, what will happen? This could be your output. You could able to see the first option, running. Yes, T1 dot start. It started running. Next, what we are going to do? Again T1 dot start. It will generate this exception. What is that? Illegal thread state exception. Thread state. Remember that exception. What is a thread state? Once thread is created and if it is going to run, what could be the next state it could able to move? Either blocked state or it may go for the dead state or the terminate state that you could able to move. Okay, or else you make the thread to suspend or resume, suspend or sleep that you could able to perform. I could not able to go back again the same thread, right? So that's the reason why I will get illegal thread state exception. Please remember this class name. Illegal thread state exception is the built-in class which is being dedicated for state related exceptions, right? So it is not possible. I cannot be able to start a thread more than one time. Please remember, more than one time. Yes. The next question. What if we call run method directly instead start method? Normally what I will do, T1 dot start. Instead of that, I am using T1 dot run. What will happen? So the logic is very simple. I think you could able to remember the last session. You could able to see that single thread means I am having the single address space. I could able to see a single stack, single code register, right? Single data register, everything. When you are going to working with the multi-thread, what's happening? So ultimately, it's going to create separate entities for them virtually, right? So when I'm going to use this T1.run, what will happen? Ultimately, it does not use any separate call stack. It will use the already existing stack. That's the reason. That's the main thing. So again, continuing with the same thing, right? The same example, what we have seen here, how it was being protected. Okay? How it was being protected here. So here T1 will sleep, T2 will work. T2 will work, T1 will sleep. So likewise, it will work for that. Likewise, instead of start, if I'm going to use run method in that, what will happen? Okay? Run method, what will happen? T1.run, T2.run, what will happen? Nothing but it will work as it is. It will not work like your thread. Okay, first T1 will, first T2 will work completely, next T1 will work completely. That's it. That could be the major logic, that they won't bother about your multi-threading. That is the main case, instead of if you are going to use. So otherwise, what you can convey in the campuses, see, this answer could be the best answer. It does not start a separate call stack. Ultimately, the role of multi-threading will not be there when you are not going to use the start method, right? That's the idea. Next method, join method. So till now we have seen sleep method, which is ready to interrupt the thread. Okay, join method. What is the purpose of this join method? It waits for the thread to die. That means it is waiting for the thread in a indefinite fashion. That's what the term. So join method waits for a thread to die. Otherwise, how they are going to convey? It causes the currently running threads to stop executing until the thread it joins with the completes the task. That means it is going to wait. So the process of indefinite waiting, there is a very good term in operating system called starvation. Okay, So the process of starvation is happening. It is waiting. Still that person is completing the job. Then it will ready to join, right? And you could able to see this through this method, right? So here normal join don't have any specific durations, but here you could able to give durations. You can use both those things, right? Both these methods are useful for you, join as well as join long milliseconds. When you are going to develop animations and games, you can use this multi-threading in your environment. When you are going to create network programming, right? When you are going to work with network programming, network related projects, when you are going to do, you can use this join along with the milliseconds, right? So those things are more useful, these methods application wise, right? So I think this program, the same program again, that we are going to work with, we are going to print 1 to 5. Okay, so in that case what's happening, check with the main method. There are three threads. T1 I have started. T1 I have started. Within the try block, I am trying to join the thread T1 dot join. So what does it mean? T1 will ready to do this job. Then only T2 and T3 will come and combine with them. That is ultimate logic here. See this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is output from your T1. So you can see in the above example, T1 completes its task. Let it complete. Till the time T2 and T3 will get to wait. T1 will complete its job. T2 and T3 will wait till the time. Once it is over, T2 and T3 are performing multi-threading here. You could able to see that. Okay. T2 and T3 are performing multi-threading here. T1 will complete its job sequentially. T2 and T3 are performing multi-threading here. That is the role of this join method. So T2 and T3 are waiting till T1 completes its task, right? So I think in the forthcoming sessions, you will learn about synchronized method, right? In the campus, you have two options. They will ask you to do the thread need to wait till the next thread to complete the job. In that case, either you can use this method or you will use that synchronized method that I think will be executed by the other trainer on their way. So next one is get name, set name, get ID. I could able to give name for a thread, right? I could able to find out the name of the thread. I could able to find out the ID of thread. These are all something useful when we are going to work with the administrative context, right? If I'm going to work with a network monitoring tool, in that case, how many threats are applying? See, for example, you have performed your commercial transaction through IRCTC website. Your particular transaction is being failed. How it was identified? Using the transaction ID. The transaction ID is nothing but your thread ID, right? Transaction ID is nothing but thread ID, because at a time n numbers of users are accessing IRCTC. How to find out the uniqueness? This feature will give you the thing. Get ID is nothing but your transaction ID, right? I think you people are paying fees and you are sharing the screenshots. You would be able to see UTR number or reference ID or transaction number. All these things are nothing but this get ID only. Through this get ID method only, the corresponding, because on the particular time T, a number of users will use the payment gateway, right? So how they will be uniquely identified? This reference is common for all the three people. Who are they? You are paying fees. Destination is college account. Third person is nothing but bank. All these people are being to work with. In the third person, you have two banks will be there. Source bank as well as destination bank. All of them will know. For four of you, the common ID is being nothing but this thread ID only. Nothing but I could able to get it. In this program, I am creating two threads, T1 and T2. I want to know the name of the thread. For that, I'm using T1.getName, T2.getName. I want to know the ID of the thread. I could able to find it out. I could able to rename a thread also. Okay, I could able to rename a thread. See that name of first thread is thread 0. It's a built-in one. Name of thread 2 is built-in one. Thread 1, right? Thread -1. ID of thread 1 is 8, right? So running, what's happening? Thread is got invoked T1.start. After changing the name of thread, T1 is going to be RIT. I have changed the name of the thread here. Set name, right? Actual name of the thread is going to be thread 0. It is changed to RIT. I could able to change it, right? So running, again, my thread is going to run here. See that thread is ready to work even though if you have not called over on that. T1.start and T2.start. Both the threads are running. Depending upon their time slices. See that The process of time slicing, you could able to see that T1 is running. I could able to get the thread name. Next T2 is running. See that? That's the main idea where you could able to flavor your multi-threading. Current thread T1 and T2, two threads are running. This current thread method will help me currently which thread is using the stack. T1 is having separate stack, T2 is having separate stack. Okay, so which thread is currently active? I could be able to find it out. Both are active, but currently which one is utilizing the stack? The output of this program will be different for different people. While you are going to run your system, you could be able to see. Might be T1 will be running first, or T2 will be running first, depending upon your stack usage. There will be a propagation delay will be there. By that, the thread name will come. So you could be able to see thread 0 and thread 1, right? In some machine, you will get thread 1 and thread 0. So depending upon that, it will ready to come with priority of a thread, right? Pertaining to thread class, you have three types of priority: min priority, max priority, non-priority. Identically, for every priority, you have an integer value. Normal priority value is 5, minimum priority is 1, maximum priority is 10. Okay, so if you run this program, I could be able to fix the priority using the set priority, right? Through that, I could be able to manage the interrupt on my own way. That's what set priority, thread dot min priority, thread dot max priority. So I'm going to set m1 dot start, m2 dot start. Okay, so when m1 dot start is going to run, what will happen? Which thread that it need to run, minimum priority or maximum priority? You could be able to see that. Okay, so the maximum priority thread will run first. Okay, so that's the thing. So in this session, completely we have come across sleep, join, thread priority. Okay, naming the thread. These are all the four concepts we have seen. Any clarifications? Post in the chat.